Hey everyone, welcome back. I've got another 80s classic synth riff tutorial for you today. This one's going to be Duran Duran Save a Prayer intro and verse. But I know some of you love these and I know some of you hate them. And I'm just going to say I'm doing these because I enjoy doing this and I'm learning. Basically, I am learning about all the stuff I was too young to really get when I was a kid. And some of these songs were really favorites of mine, but honestly, I didn't really pay much attention critically to pop music in the 80s. Near the end of the 80s, I was learning classical piano and jazz piano, and I kind of was a jazz snob. So, I mean, I certainly had a few of the pop hits absolutely stuck with me, and this was one of them. I was quite young when I first heard it, and I just love that echo on that synth riff. And so let's get right into it and figure out how to recreate that synth riff on a variety of compact synthesizers and sequencers. But first, let's take a look at the bass track. So what you want to do is search the internet for a thing called All the Web DX7 patches and download that archive. And there is a bunch of gems in there that aren't clearly labeled on the outside. If you get my drift. And anyway, get that package in there. This was the best bass sound I found. Why it was called Prophet 1, I'm not exactly sure. I imagine it simulates something from the original Prophet, which is kind of cool. But it sounds as close to Andy Taylor's, I think it was his bass, on the original track, which is a real bass. So let's do this. So we're going to go to 13. We're going to go to octave 1, negative 1. And we're going to play... and that will be the first track. I think that did it. So let's turn on. So that gives it a little flavor. Let's save that. Let's do track, the second part of it, which is... okay. So the pickup on that is beat 7 from a 16 beat measure. So let's write that onto 14. And let's turn motion sequencing on. Extra punch on the up there. So now we will write that as well with the motion sequencing. Well, let's go back to 13, listen to it, and see if we want to add some chorus. Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe a little reverb. Yeah, not too much. So I'm going to write that to track 13. The thing with the FM is when you switch between tracks during song playback mode, it resets your chorus and it resets your reverb. So you got to kind of match that up, otherwise it might sound a little strange. So we wrote it to 13. We're going to remember 14, and we're going to fix the chorus and the reverb to be similar. We're going to write that to 14, and now we're going to play both back. I like it. Sounds pretty good. Okay, now that we're back, let's dig right into figuring out these synth riffs on compact synthesizers. Oh, can't forget Smokey here. Gotta have him around for this stuff. All right, so you need three things to get this sound. You need a 2 oscillator synthesizer. Bare minimum, you need an effects unit. So you need some chorus and you need some delay. And particularly they used a tape delay. So the original synth they used on this, I guess, was a Roland SH2. This was in like 1978. That was created, and I'm not sure what they used for sequencer, but they also used a Roland tape delay to get that delay effect. So this is pretty straightforward to recreate, but I wanted to try it out first on the J-6 because this is also a Roland. The Juno is a super popular synthesizer, and what I noticed is some of the sounds just sound really great for this introductory. So let's check it out. This is sound 1/8 on the first bank. And what we need to do is we need to make sure the pattern is set to 1/2. So that's basically 2 beats per pattern. It's going to move by pretty quickly. These essentially become 1/8 notes for a whole bar, and we just need to program a single note in each slot. So to do that, we'll select a slot, D for the first note, 2, slot 2 is E, slot 3 is F, slot 4 is A, slot 5 is upper C, slot 6 is A, 7 is upper C, and slot 8 is A again. And if we play that back, I'm going to turn the delay down. That's what we get. Now, the delay is really key for this, and the delay just naturally, if you hold shift, what we want to set the delay to is 4D, 4 divisions, and just turn it up. And it really sounds great. It's almost like has that slightly too longer than a quarter note delay that a tape delay would give you. So it's pretty. And this right here, to me, just sounds almost passable from the original. So there we go, we have the first sequence. Because this has a sequencer and a delay effect, we can get pretty much the whole sound out of one compact synthesizer, the Roland J-6. Also, we could use the MIDI out from this right here, the MIDI out, and feed it into another synthesizer and use it to control. That would be an option as well. Okay, let's try making this on the KORG Volca bass now. So first, let's move to slot 6. I'm going to clear that slot out, and we want to set our octave to 3. Now, I do have a patch sheet here for the KORG Volca bass that I put together, although there's really a lot of flexibility. We can switch a lot of this up subtly and get just slightly different sounds out of this. It is 114 BPM, and we want to use that mode here instead of doubling up by splitting the BPM in half. We really want to keep this at 114, and the reason is we're going to skip every other step as we program these in, so we get some space there for the delay effect to work, and we're going to use the delay from the NTS. All right, so let's punch this in, and here are the steps. So we'll go into step record mode, and we're gonna start with M6, M8, and then record to basically store a blank step or erase another step. If there was a step there, it would erase it. M8. I'm just going pretty fast here. I've already done this once, so 13. Okay, and we can turn that off. Now, these are the settings I'm using here. A slight, turn up the attack a little bit here. Let's stop this. Turn up the attack a little bit to 1. Decay release just a little bit past straight up, which is 5. Cut off intensity, kind of like here, I like. Now I can also turn sustain and amp on. Sorry, let's quit skipping around here. Turn these down. All right, sustain and amp. These do make a difference. I tend to keep this on and crank this up. It sounds better on the chorus, but if I want to solo, use this as solo, I turn this down. Okay, so we leave this on M3. We've recorded it on all tracks, so we can have some fun there if you want to later. And then everything else, just leave it the way it is. This oscillator, we're at 20 cents high. This one's 0 or off. And this one I turn all the way up to 12N or +1 octave. And we get the sound. Sounds pretty good. This is what happens if we turn off sustain and amp. It's slightly different, it's almost there, but it seems to sound better to me. Now we need to add the delay in. And so the delay is a tape delay. First, actually, let's start with the chorus first. And we've already got it on. That's pretty much already set up. And we'll go to a tape delay. Almost want to turn the chorus down. It's so rich. The tape delay. Really runs away with it. So this is what I had for the original tape delay. It sounds okay. But it does sound more full than the original. And that's just the nature of what the bass puts out for sound. And we can hear what it sounds like with the third oscillator turned all the way down. So there we have it. There's the riff on the KORG Volca bass. So for the last sample, I wanted to do something different with the SQ-1 as the sequencer and the NTS as the tone generator. So for this, we turn to the saw. Oops. And let's see. For here, this is the shape basically for the saw. And we can alternate the secondary oscillator, which is kind of a bass oscillator, a sub-bass oscillator here. So let's go. All right. Let's turn that off for now. Let's turn the filter off. Let's turn this to here. Turn that up a little bit. Anyway, I've got it all programmed in here. So for here, we've got function. We're using the chromatic range, and we're using 2 volts. And these are the dial settings. You can figure these out on your own by listening to the track and using step jump mode to kind of play each step back. And I've got it duplicated here so it plays twice. And you'll see why in a second. But if we hit play, so let's turn on the delay. So you can have some fun with the gate on off and mixing it up for a second half of a verse. So that's controlling the NTS-1. So there you have it. Those are the 3 patches on the Roland J-6, on the KORG Volca bass, and on the KORG NTS-1 with the SQ-1 running the sequence. All right, so let's jam out with this sucker. I've got a very simple drum track on the Volca sample. You can probably figure that out yourself, not a problem. And then the bass track we looked at earlier. And let's have a little jam session. Okay, here we go.